15th century, Wallachia stood as a hard, forested frontier between Christian kingdoms and the rising Ottoman Empire. From this crucible arose Vlad of the House of Dracula. History would remember him by many names, but most of all as Dracula. Vlad's father, Vlad II, bore the title Dracula, the Dragon, as a knight of the Order of the Dragon, sworn to defend Christendom. As his son, Vlad was called Dracula, son of the dragon. In the whispering of enemies, the name would darken to mean son of the devil. To secure a fragile peace, young Vlad and his brother Radu were sent as hostages to the Ottoman court. There, among mosaics and minarets, he learned languages, strategy, and the cold realities of power. He also learned to hate captivity. Civil war and betrayal ripped through Wallachia. With foreign backing, Vlad briefly claimed the throne, only to be driven out. Exile forged his resolve. He would return not as a supplicant, but as a storm. Through calculated alliances and ruthless will, Vlad seized Targovishte and declared himself voivode. He inherited a land of feuding boyars, bandits, and threats on every border, and he resolved to break them all into order. Vlad summoned the noble families for an Easter feast, then condemned those who had betrayed his house. Some were impaled, others were driven on a forced march to build his fortress at Poenari. The message was simple. Treachery would be paid in iron and ash. Vlad embraced a weapon older than empires, fear. Thieves lost their lives, corrupt officials their offices and heads. Along the roads, forests of stakes sprouted like grim warnings. Merchants traveled safely. Peasants slept without fear of bandits. Law returned, running red. On a high ridge above the Argesh, Vlad rebuilt Poenari fortress stone by stone, a citadel carved from the mountains. From its walls he watched the passes, daring any invader to try the steep path beneath his archers' eyes. When Ottoman envoys refused to remove their turbans before him, citing custom, Vlad honored their custom forever by nailing the turbans to their skulls. The tale spread like wildfire. This was a prince who bent to no one. The Ottomans demanded tribute and obedience. Vlad paid when it suited him, stalled when it didn't, and sharpened his spears. Between Buda and Istanbul, he played a deadly game of promises and betrayals. In 1462, Sultan Mehmed II marched with a vast army to crush Wallachia. Under moonless skies, Vlad led his riders into the Ottoman camp, striking at the heart with torches and steel. Tents burned, chaos erupted, and the Sultan himself narrowly escaped. It became legend as the night attack at Targovishte. When Mehmed approached Targovishte, he found not a city eager to bow, but a plain of thousands of impaled corpses. Soldiers, criminals, enemies. The Sultan looked upon the forest of death and chose caution. Terror bought Wallachia one more day of freedom. Travelers told of a silver cup left on a public fountain by Vlad's decree. No one dared steal it. Such was his rule, brutal, absolute, and astonishingly effective at ending the chaos that had strangled his land. The Ottomans raised Vlad's brother Radu as their favored prince. Charismatic and well-liked, he led campaigns against Vlad, swaying boyars and cities with promises of peace. Wallachia became a chessboard where brothers were opposing kings. Seeking aid from Hungary, Vlad found suspicion instead. King Matthias imprisoned him. Whether from politics or forged letters is debated. Years passed behind walls, and Vlad's legend darkened into monstrous pamphlets printed in the West. Even in captivity, Vlad trained, converted his image when useful, and waited. He married into Hungarian nobility and watched the map of the Balkans shift with every campaign. Patience became another weapon. Released when politics turned, Vlad returned to Wallachia amid turmoil. Once more he wore the crown, and once more he faced the same enemies. Factions within, empires without, and the relentless tide of history pressing on his borders. His last reign was short and violent. In winter campaigns against Ottoman forces and rival claimants, Vlad met his end. Whether in battle or ambush remains uncertain. His head, it is said, was sent to Istanbul as proof, preserved in honey. Monks at Snagov Monastery claimed his burial, but excavations found only bones of others. Like a shadow in moonlight, the grave of Dracula refused to be fixed to one place. German and Saxon towns printed lurid tales of Vlad's cruelty, some true, many embellished. Woodcuts showed him dining among the impaled, a prince of iron feasting on terror. Enemies needed a monster, they found one in their presses. To peasants who slept safely and merchants who traveled without fear, Vlad was a stern protector. To boyars who plotted and foreigners who pillaged, he was Judgment Day on horseback. Truth lived somewhere between fear and order. The dragon sigil meant defiance against the Ottoman crescent. Yet in the crucible of frontier politics, alliances blurred. Vlad's life was a study in contradictions. Christian champion and pragmatic warlord, tyrant and stabilizer. Centuries later, the Irish author Bram Stoker would borrow the name Dracula for a vampire count of Transylvania. But the real Vlad knew no immortality of fangs, only the harsh necessities of a land at war and the terrible costs of rule. Borders shifted and empires fell, but the mountains and forests of Wallachia endured. In their valleys, stories of Vlad Țepeș, Vlad the Impaler, still circulate by firelight, tales of a prince who made the night itself hold its breath. Judge him by the corpses and he is a monster. Judge him by the roads made safe, the bandits gone, the order carved from anarchy, and he is a necessary evil. History offers no easy verdict, only a ledger of blood and a people who survived. Vlad's Wallachia stood between worlds, Latin and Slavic, cross and crescent, forest and empire. His reigns were brief, his methods infamous, but his story marks the razor's edge where small nations are ground between giants and still refuse to vanish. In literature, he became immortal. In history, he remained mortal and flawed, a prince of cold resolve. Yet the name Dracula outlived him, a banner, a curse, a legend. And legends, unlike men, do not need graves.